Miss Pluckrose, how are you?
Yeah, we are excited. We are excited and we are worried at Counterweight. So we're
Hmm.
getting a lot of people coming in from all walks of life. As you know, we are a liberal humanist organization, so we're essentially trying to help people to keep their workplaces, their universities, their children's schools open to viewpoint diversity, to freedom of belief. And we're coming up against these problems over and over again. Now, a lot of the people who are coming to us, and they're often the people that we find hardest to help, are people within various areas of art. And
Yeah.
we're hearing particularly from filmmakers. There are a lot of very annoyed filmmakers who really just want to make films and are finding themselves essentially shut out.
Mm.
And so I'm hearing a lot about what's happening in Canada, particularly in America.
Yep.
What's the scene like in Australia?
The funds in Australia come from government institutions. So it's very difficult to get projects up in Australia from any private area. You notice things like you're required to have a certain gender balance in order to apply for funds. There is endless initiatives for different kinds of representation, and it appears to me, and while it's not, it is difficult to talk about this because it's not exactly explicit, but it appears to me that these government agencies are taking a more editorial approach when really they're just supposed to be there giving funds to artists of all kinds to show what is actually happening in the artist community in Australia and to kind of grow the industry. That's their. It's always been their mandate, but their mandate is moving further and further into these kind of representation type initiatives. And I mean, if you look at a lot of the things that get funding, then there's a thematic approach. It becomes clear if you are in the arts and entertainment industry here in Australia, there is a path, and that path is leaning into your identity.
That was actually the next thing I was going to bring up to you, because this is what we're hearing. We had a filmmaker, and she'd produced a really engaging short film, and she applied for inclusion in this festival, and they were saying, can you make it about being a woman?
Mm,
And she's, I don't want to make films about being a woman. Being a woman isn't actually that interesting. I have this really
yeah,
interesting thing that I'm
yeah,
interested in.
yeah. Well, the thing is, this is why it's so difficult to talk about because on the surface, the argument is we need more stories from women's perspectives or say minorities' perspectives, and most people are all for that. It's like cool, these are new stories that maybe haven't been told as much before, and that seems like a really positive thing. But when you actually see a lot of the ideas that are getting through, it's the suffering of women or the suffering of minorities instead of like not all female stories are about being oppressed or girl power or things like that. There are all kinds of interesting things you can talk about from those perspectives, but you find that they end up being very political, and there's these identity these themes pop up again and again, and they're woven through the art itself.
And in a way, there's a huge overlap with academia and art. I
Mm,
often feel that
mm.
what I'm possibly the least artistic person in the world, and you've pointed this out considerably.
Many times.
But in another way, part of what I'm doing when I am writing, and I am writing persuasively, is art, and
Yeah.
trying to be able to do that in a way that explores your own interests and isn't tied in to anything
Mm,
else is really difficult. And I sympathize as well with the fear of kind of taking on a victim narrative and the lack of
mm,
dignity in that. I do worry about that as well, that this the rise of victimhood culture, it isn't only happening on the activist side. We're seeing a rise
Yeah.
of counter-victim culture
Yeah. Yeah.
as well, and trying to hold both of those back at the
Yeah.
same time is
It's
something that's,
very difficult.
yeah, we want to be pro-liberal. We don't want to be anti anything. You've been very
Yeah.
critical of my new atheist stance, and I will concede that
Yeah.
for a long time that was too anti,
Well, there you go.
rather than being pro positive things. And I want to be pro positive things. And how do we do this? How do we go ahead with this with
Well, this is the interesting thing. I find in order to be not woke, you have to be sufficiently anti-woke for a little bit, because it's intertwined with so much of our everyday lives and the TV we consume, all sorts of things. And so you have to be motivated into understanding what the hell this thing is, and from a critical point of view. So that's the anti-woke. But then at some point you've got to step out and just go, all right, I'm just not woke. And this is the liberal position that you're staking out, which I think is really powerful, because you don't have to get into this tit for tat kind of thing, and you can stand with dignity. And so this is why I like your approach, and I think this is why your books and you in general are in demand right now, because this is a strong position to occupy, I think.
I certainly hope so. It does feel very much as though people are polarizing, and that they're finding a non-extreme position unsatisfying. And I don't know how, how do I interest people in being, valuing consistently liberal ethics and
Yeah.
evidence-based epistemology? How do I do this? This is my life's
I don't
goal.
know, Helen. Shit's getting wild out there, and you're going, oh, just take it easy. Strong epistemology, liberal ethics. I get it. It's not sexy, but there's dignity in there, and I think it's in the dignity.
It was Jim said only the woke could make social conservatism sexy, and they have somehow. How do we fix that, Mike? Go on, you are the
Send in the artists. I think we need people to come in and make this sexy, give it an aesthetic. I mean, we can try. I think while you were saying that, I was thinking that it's a lot easier for you in England and me in Australia to take that position, but shit's getting wild in the US. So it strikes me as it'll be a lot more difficult to pull something off there. It's almost as though we need to retreat and take care of our own for a little while.
There's a strong feeling that way. We can get consistently positive results, not 100%, but we're much more likely, if we're addressing an issue in employment in the UK, to be able to work something out with negotiation, strongly worded letters. We can do that. The US, it doesn't have that. Then we have the greater polarization, the sort of less willingness to take a moderate position anyway. And I am worried about America. We're kind of playing whack-a-mole with individual situations, and we're making things better for individuals here and there, but I think a lot of it in America will come down to the people addressing the big institutions, and we can just hope that they're doing that responsibly.
Well, it's worrying because so many people are buying into this stuff. So what are you seeing on the artist side of this thing? Because it's not this kind of way of thinking, this controlling of the output is not conducive to good art or creative freedom. And creative people die a little bit inside when they have to conform to certain expectations. And so what are you seeing on your end?
There are a lot of people talking about the damage that this is doing to art itself. So many people that we want to produce a book about it. It will be probably quite a messy book with lots of artists just explaining how art itself is being damaged, how human experience, consciousness knowledge and the best of humanity is essentially being squashed by being
Mm,
pushed into this uniformity. But
yeah.
what we see mostly is people saying, "How can I get free from this and just do my thing? How can I keep my small business selling paintings or books
Mm.
or advertising films and not get pushed out of the industry?"
Well, I have a thought that I think I have to believe this is that there is a parallel industry that is being created right now. And I think the barriers to entry are so low that we can get on the internet and access an audience. And the cameras you can buy are so cheap, and the technology you can use is actually quite simple now. And so there are ways to work outside of the system. And I see more and more people just doing that. And I think that there are norms being built where people want to actually pay for non-establishment things without the establishment seal of approval, because the establishment seal of approval is making tedious output. For every now and again, you get some interesting stuff that is coming through it, but there's so much weight on the creative process that you receive it on the outside, and you're like, this sucks. The other thing is that they're not optimizing for truth in many senses. It's like truth got lost along the way with all this discourse engineering, and so people intuitively know that there's something off with the output. And so if you can make output that's a higher quality and is guided by truth, then there's a market for that. And so I've had some level of success moving outside of the establishment. It's more fun. That's where the fun is. Where the truth, the beauty, and the fun is, the artists will go. So it's about creating the infrastructure to make that okay for them. And I think it's on its way. It's there.
I see the signs of that too. I see influential people trying to build things to make that happen, and I hope it will. And I hope Counterweight can help them.
Yes, I'm sure it will.